Greetings, Marv Gardens here, reporting in for this Wednesday day. How is everybody doing? Um, Welcome to the now. We're going to, as you know, Wednesdays are contemporary Wednesdays, and then contemporary Wednesdays, I'll talk about a relevant topic to today. And what are we going to be talking about is essentially old people. The reason why I decided to talk about old people is because as young people, we should always plan for the future. So I think it's very relevant that anybody who isn't on a cane should be worried about when they get to that point where they're going to be on that cane. Or whatever happens when you get too old to be old. um what I'm going to start with is the whole retirement thing. And the reason why I decided that is because retirement is a curse and a gift. It's a curse because it just means that you're back to being a kid again. It's a gift because it means that you finally get a chance to be a kid again. um the reason why I feel like I gotta get that out of my vocabulary. This is not about my feelings. Retirement is a topic of discussion because there is a problem that we are facing today in the country where the government is like deciding when retirement is, how you are to retire, and yada yada yada. And I feel like that's not their job. And the reason why I say it's not their job is because they basically do everything else up to retirement. So you can see how you're basically like, but people. I mean, you're gonna always have those people with the jobs that basically let the government allow them to do this. But you can't. I don't think it's fair to basically say, "Hey, I don't work for the government. I still should be taken care of by the government." And the reason why I say this is because the system doesn't fix itself. It overloads itself. Meaning, if everybody's looking to the government for retirement, then what do you do? You know what I mean? When you got a whole bunch of people looking for retirement checks, and nobody's basically looking like they got a foot in the grave, basically. No disrespect to anybody that do got a foot in the grave. And the reason why this is a problem is because the government is an infinite. It doesn't have you know it's not the grand giver of all comfortable living. You know what I mean? And what y'all probably thinking about right now is I'm talking about the government. You're not supposed to talk about the government. I'm not talking about the government in relation to the government. I'm talking about the government in relation to retirement. Old people. That's the difference. And the reason why I decided to talk about that is because I feel like that is a milestone of what could be one of those big changes for the 21st century. And how you go about this is figuring out how do you turn pension, whatever, into something lucrative. Now, that may sound, not retarded, that may sound stupid because by definition, a pension is not lucrative. It's essentially, you know, the what you call it, the summarization of um um the summarization of what you've accomplished and what's your career. There we go. And it has its own rules that it has to maintain, just because it's kind of a you can't pay somebody's pension as you would pay them if they were working. That's just unfair to people that work and don't have access to a pension plan. So I came up with this idea, not really an idea, it's the truth, that I feel like a lot of people might like. And what I decided was that, you know, pensions usually revolve around how much you make, specifically how much you're making right before you retire, right? So wouldn't it be cool, right, if you could take the money, all of the money that you made working, right? The government takes all, like, this is the reason how this works is because only because the IRS are assholes. So this takes an asshole and makes them a nice guy. So how this works is you do your taxes every year. You've been doing your taxes since your children was babies, and now they're not babies, or you know what I mean, since you were a baby in terms of workplace status. And how that transfers over is that the money that you make gets taken into consideration, meaning whatever money you made, the summarization of all of that, that's your retirement plan. Now the problem with this is that there are people that make a buttload of money. I mean, like a buttload of money. Like, if you're talking about somebody that's making six figures every year, telling them that they get that back may make some people feel like that's a little bit crazy. However, as we know, these magical places that people make loads of money don't happen. They don't happen over tomorrow. So to factor that in, if someone has been undergoing salary changes, then the easiest way to balance that out is to take the base salary that they started with and basically calculate it based on however many years that they've been working. Now, this may sound like you're basically taking somebody's money and multiplying it in a method that makes no sense, but the idea is that this system only works as if you do taxes. If you don't do taxes, then the system won't work. And the reason why the system works is because even though the government will be technically giving you more money than you made, however, they're not, because you're talking about people. You got people that's getting paid pensions for money they don't have to work for, and that's how it works out. You got people if you have a pension plan, then this system wouldn't work for you. If you don't have a pension plan, the system will work for you, and it probably won't make you too rich either. And the reason why it won't make you too rich is because, as we all know, you don't notice you're spending until you're not making. So, how that works out is that you stop working altogether. You're not old, you're like 60, 70. You probably still got mortgage payments to make. You probably still got property taxes to pay. You probably still got a car. You got children. You got grandchildren. Yada, yada, yada. All of these things that will eat into your money anyway, as well as you have to put away for funeral costs. So, in reality, the government is not doing you a favor, it's doing itself a favor. Because the idea is that now you have assets which will essentially balance everything out. So, the problem with that, not the problem with that, the reason why this works is because, let's say, the problem with the pension plan is that some people be worried about they can't pay their bills after they retire and yada yada yada. But I'm like, if you got a pension plan, you should be able to figure that out. That's not a really problem. It's the people that don't have a pension plan that be like, ah. And the reason why I even thought of this is because they have retirement homes, but I'm like, there are only but so many retirement homes. There are only but so many places that Social Security can take you. So I'm like, this makes sense is because if you've been filing, then the government knows exactly how much to give you. You can't make any more than the government than you've already been making. So it's like the reason why it works is because it follows that idea that hard work pays off. And the idea behind that also is that you are basically solving the problem of a person who wants to retire but can't retire because they don't know if they'll have enough money to retire and yada yada yada. Now, if you've been working for 20, 30 years, I can see how people would be like, why, I might be too much money. However, you've also got to take into consideration, if you've been filing taxes, you've also been getting tax returns. Tax returns are going to deduct from that. So whatever you've been getting back in tax returns will be deducted from that. And now you got a little counterbalance to this. Also, you don't calculate salary gross, you calculate it net. Meaning, your salary is not being calculated from what you would get before taxes. It's being calculated for what you get after taxes. And that's how that worked out into the tax deduction thing. And when you think about it, that may or may not make some people millionaires. You never know. But in reality, it probably won't make you a millionaire because on average, people that make money spend a lot more money when you think about it. That's why it worked out. Because, I throw you a figure. If I make, we gonna do a upper middle class thing here. If I make 70, 60, that's probably a little low. $70,000 or $80,000 a year, right? My wife is probably gonna make similar to that, right? If she don't, doesn't matter because it means that I can at least afford to be in a house, right? Now, the chances are that you're not gonna come out of college making $70,000 or $80,000. Let's say I started making that when I had like upper 30s, maybe 40. So now I'm retiring 20 years later. Okay, if I'm making that type of money, I'm probably gonna have kids. And if I probably got kids, then I probably wasn't saving a lot of money because if when you this is why kids are they are a soberer of mathematics. Kids are the grand usurper of all that is dispensable revenue. And that's what also made it work out. Meaning, in savings, I'm probably going to have next to nothing. Now, if I put myself in a position to make this type of money, I'm also going to probably have loans. I'm also going to probably have other expenses that made this possible. And these is going to eat into that huge sum of money that people might have thought of when I said, you about to make back everything that you made. In reality, you probably not, because if I'm making 70, 80 gross, my net is not going to be close to that. I might be getting lower to like 60, maybe upper 50s. Now we sound a little more sober, right? So, other counterbalances to that is to, hold on. Yeah, and property taxes will automatically also be deducted for future years as well, in case anything happens prematurely. And that's just so, boy, these sticky what you call situations where you essentially had to foreclose on someone's home because the owner passed away or something like that. But essentially, after the government gets done doing their thing, that large sum of money you expecting becomes more realistic when it reaches you. And that's I feel like that's why it works. Most people expect security, but how security gets to you, you know, you're not gonna like it after it goes through the realistic filter, but that's just how it works. Also, I feel like old people are they are they become more like what you call it, bottle caps to this whole work situation, because that's usually what causes jobs to freeze up per se, because you got people that's worried about retirement and all this other stuff. They don't want to volunteer to quit. Nobody who would volunteer to lose their job. And you know that's just a demonstration of, well, an example of how retirement can be a discourager of action. Also, old people tend to get out of touch with the world when they're not able to spend like they used to. They tend to get very what do you call it? They tend to they tend to basically not do stuff anymore. That's just a consequence of the system that we have now. The idea that it makes working, unless you have a pension, it makes working kind of stupid. And work shouldn't be like that. Every job should be meaningful as far as it contributes to your future. And I feel like that's another limiter of society. The idea that kids are focused on the top spot versus focusing on getting a spot. And that is going to happen. That's how the system breeds people today. Because retirement is looking more like a reward versus something that everybody should be able to enjoy. And that's how this if the I don't know how this could get passed to the government, But if it does, um, you heard it from me. If it doesn't, uh, you heard it from me. um, what else? What else? What else? In terms of old people also being a contribution to society, I feel like they can contribute more by you know, being what you would say basically that was the whole my whole point of using their retirement as to basically make old people a bank. Because I feel like their contribution to the family tends to veer off when they get old. Nobody likes people that talk about what they used to do. Talk about what you do now. I feel like that's a bad habit that old people get. They always talk about what they used to do. Nobody cares about what you used to do. What do you do now? And by still being able to remain an economic force for the family, it further encourages youth to not be so quick to jump to basically the idea that they need to have the American dream, because in reality the American dream should be reachable by anybody as long as they work. And I feel like that's the dream, that's of the dream that makes this discussion work. On a more, I say, popular note, old people can definitely learn a few things from pop culture. I mean, their ability to relate is going to be limited, of course, but I feel like old people should always try to remain in touch with the generations in terms of everything, technology, news, yada yada yada. And I feel like most old people just get caught up, with the simple stuff. Like they just keep up with events, but they don't keep up with the times. Like, I think it would be cool if old people knew how to do more technology than the young people. But I feel like that's a habit that just comes with being born in a generation versus living into a generation. Um, mm, mm, um, old people too are. I feel like old people should be the um. I don't know. I feel like they should be the information center for the family in terms of they should be they should know everything that's going on in the family, as well as a passer of knowledge in the form of you know those things that you wouldn't want people to know outside of your family. But how that works out is limited because old people get used to talking in person, or they get used to talking over the phone. They don't really You wouldn't really expect an old person to keep an electronic storage of all the things you would need to know about the family. Like that's, I feel like that's their you know, um their thing. But damn, my discussion was really focused on retirement and stuff. I didn't really have a um well, I never have a script written, but I usually am able to jump from things to things. But old people is pretty hard because by definition they ain't really the most interesting people in the world. But mm, mm, mm. Old people are a. I feel like they've lost that elder status they've had back in the day because as a person to go to you, it just that I feel like that just falls back on what I was talking about, the whole idea of them being information centers, which requires you to always update and be in the know of information relevant to the family. Most importantly, I feel like old people should be balancing. Like they have all day. They're like they should be the accountants. They should be they should be like server admin. Like on a cool note, like I feel like old people should basically be like the the extended service for the family. Like most people are limited by what they can do in a 24-hour period, specifically by when businesses open and close. Now, if I forget to do laundry or something, or I forget to uh 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 I don't even know, because a lot depending on where you are, you'll probably have access to a service or whatever. You'll probably either have the service there in your home or you have access to it. But I feel like that's a what you call it. Old people should be able to come in clutch. I feel like all old people should drive. Even if they've never driven in a life, I feel like that's just an accomplishment that old people should um take on when they get old, because you know it'll keep them outside of the house and it'll keep them in touch with the world. Also, you know that's just a you know, it's an incentive for the government to actually listen to what's going on, because you don't want. I feel like the main problem of old people is that they cease to contribute to the economy. By definition, retirement is going to encourage a hoarder's mentality, meaning old people are going to basically have everything they need so that they never have to leave the house. And that's what happens. They the retirement current system is encouraging old people to basically be recluses. Now that doesn't mean that they don't interact. That just means that they don't come outside. um, and I feel like if an old person has a car, it helps them contribute to the youth, because even if the old person is nice, they'll let the youth drive their car. Provided that the youth is qualified, but you get what I mean. It's just being another usefulness to the family. Um, mm, mm, mm. in terms of let me see. Old people are supposed to be I feel like they open they open the opportunity to do it homeschooling. Like since old people have a lot of time on their hands now, I feel like that's also a perfect time for them to get certified as whatever, you know. Like I think it would be cool to go to school at home because your grandmama or your grandfather is certified to be an educator. Like you see what I mean? Like that, it would be like having a hookup. um, and just I feel like old people just if old people are set up right, they just open a lot more opportunities than what will already be around because they have the time and the resources, which is also time is a resource, but they have the time and additional resources to essentially take family culture in a different direction. Um, if an old person could learn to do construction, they could learn to do skilled labor. They could learn to do a lot of things that could help the family at home because, you know, a part of being a family unit is making a burden for everybody else easy. And I feel like if old people contribute to this versus be part of it, then why not? And I feel like in a world where technology is basically moving how everything is going in terms of direction, you're going to need someone who has the time to basically make all of this stuff relevant. And this is assuming a lot. I'll give you that. I'm not. I'll admit that I'm not. I'm exactly sounding like I have all the answers. However, I do have a general point, and the point is to basically make working in retirement make sense. And this may sound like you're basically saying that the government has the power to essentially double your money, but it's not really doubling your money because, as you know, a part of you making that money was giving to expense, and by definition, expense is the root of all money making. But that's my defense to the idea that that the discussion is irrelevant or however people may feel about it because I never try to I will never if someone felt like my discussion was a waste of time, I would never tell them they're wrong. I would just take their point into consideration and do better. I don't really this isn't a debate discussion. This isn't a a biased discussion. This is completely receptive to all opinions and feelings. Because if it wasn't, then I would be wasting my time. But I feel like focusing on old people today is important because as a youth, well, not really a youth. I can't really call myself as a person that's not close to being old yet. Which I can say I could put just about anybody who isn't old yet into that category. Um, you can understand how it can be tempting to pay attention to the future. And part of paying attention to the future is thinking about what you're gonna do when you ain't got nothing to do. And that's how this whole discussion became an important note for me to make, because if you know being old wasn't as significant as having grandparents makes it to be, I wouldn't be talking about it right now. But um, the reason why I feel like old people make the best jack of all trades is because it will eventually, the what it contributes to them is keeping them busy, and I feel like that's the great good of all this, that it makes old people have some get that renewed you know vigor again, because that's part of being young, the fact that there's so much to be done in so little time. And once you're able to come up with a plan that brings this demand back, then you can't really complain with it. Like, and in the current system, I don't see myself working a job with a pension. Frankly, if I do work enough to reach retirement, then I expect to be compensated for it. I feel like a lot of people feel the way I do. But this is just a what you would call a comment on a situation that's ongoing, because by definition contemporary is ongoing. So, I guess the next thing to talk about would be, since we're focused on ongoing situations, what is ongoing with old people right now? I feel like what's ongoing with old people is that they're just old. And this isn't a hard luck story or anything like that about being old or trying to appeal to old people, make them have emotions. Nah, man, this ain't doing none of that. This is basically saying, hey, you may not have been compensated for what you ought to have been compensated for. Doesn't mean it can't be done. And I hate to make this the center of the discussion, but it kind of is. I mean, I feel like that's the whole point of the future, so that the past doesn't get repeated. And given that I feel like the 21st old people are a just another objective for the 21st century. That we need to have another progressive ever. We need to generate another what you would call Teddy Roosevelt deal, or the other Roosevelt. I don't know, man. There's too many presidents, man. And if I can contribute to this, I will. But on a more positive note, old people. I've been trying to get to a positive note on old people, but it's hard because you know I've already acknowledged in this discussion that I have a general purpose for this particular discussion. But on a more positive note, I feel like old people definitely are a growing, what you would call growing phenomenon, ironically. And the reason why they're growing phenomenon is because, what happens when you got a whole bunch of old people, nothing to do with them. I mean, that's the problem. Most old people are not going to be okay with going into a retirement home, especially if they've been working long enough. And I feel like that's a part of the 21st century too, is that when being a 21st century person means you're old, then what are you going what are you going to do? And in this world where being busy can which I also talked about, being busy can really make you not really have a chance to pay attention, then that's a very important question. But I don't really have I don't have an idea per se of what will happen in the future for old people, because things pick up fast. So you know no. But mm, mm, uh, I'll leave it at that. For old people, that's I feel like old people that's not really old, like being like, there's a difference between, I feel, being a young old person and an old person. And I feel like for those who are young old people, they are you know an example of an example that being old is not a problem, it's just a plan. And I feel like that's an example that youth need to take into consideration, serious consideration, because you know it can be easy to get lost in planning without realistic pieces. And that's the difference between a good plan and a bad plan. A good plan uses realistic pieces. A bad plan uses non-existent pieces. What else? Old people are also a indicator that space is definitely limited. And I feel like this is a problem that the city is going to have as time moves on. As more and more people get ready to retire, you're basically putting people in a bind, because if I'm old and I've been living in a specific place for a specific amount of time, I ain't going nowhere. And that's just the truth of the fact of the matter, man. But you know, this is just a food for thought thing, because we don't see problems until we're already knee deep in them. And I feel like this is a wisdom that old people can never impart too fast. That you should never let things swamp you. Old people also are also showing that essentially education has taken a different turn, because you know old people can turn out to be the best educators. And the reason why they're the best educators is because they've already seen education move in format to meet what you would call the new generation thinking. And that just means that having a relationship with your old people can be very useful to you. More importantly, if for this is specifically for my business minded people, I feel like old people make the best consultants and or advice givers because they'll know about products that you probably never heard of in your life. They probably know about entire industries that ain't came up and went. And that's just a benefit of being around when things were different. They get to see the difference. But old people also have a very weird perspective on life, and I feel like that's also going back to what I was talking about advice, that you should probably consult with your old people about everything. I feel like the reason why you should consult with them is because you can probably learn a lot, because they'll have if they're telling you the truth, they're not gonna sound like you. And if they do sound like you, you gonna reach a point sooner or later where they're gonna say some straight bull just to see if you're paying attention. And based off of that, you can figure out what's going on with your life, what's not going on with your life. And this is probably more orchestrated towards females because I feel like females have a tendency to let society basically. I know I wasn't supposed to go into females today. I went into females yesterday and I was thinking to myself before I even started talking about this. I'm not going to sweat females, so I'm gonna keep it simple. You should consult with your old people because they'll basically tell you if you playing yourself, and I feel like that's a very important point. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Now for males, I feel like old people are a soberer to what's going on in terms of how you are supposed to define your manhood. And the reason why I say that is because how you define your manhood will determine who you grow old with. Now I'm not trying to make you a girl or nothing and say that hanging with the homies it's soft. What I'm trying to say is that it is definitely going to be an important choice in your life, whether you decide to grow old with a specific circle of guys, or whether you decide you're gonna be a Tupac gang. It's just me and my wife. That's it. Or you gonna decide to keep a friend or two on the side. Like it's so many ways to define your manhood that consulting with old people was always going to be smart. Because if you ever watch Boondocks, Grandpa, you know, he got Uncle Ruckus, and Uncle Ruckus is the most ignorant mofo out there in terms of characters, just straight characters. And I feel like everybody got an Uncle Ruckus in their circle. It may not look like Uncle Ruckus, but everybody got an Uncle Ruckus in their circle. So that just goes into perspective. Old people they definitely got a different view on how to do things. And whether you incorporate that or you decide to just freestyle with it, that's going to be a very important decision in your life because it's going to decide whether you decide to impression is on your kids or not. So, that's why I say that's a very important. That's the other side for males. Um, I can't really go on and on with this because I'm trying not to sound like this is a pat on the back discussion. This is not a pat on the back discussion. I essentially was focused on keeping old people relevant or moving. Actually, I'm gonna be honest with you. I essentially want to. I was trying to get across the point that old people are an asset that needs to be used, should be used, because realistically, that's real life stuff. So there it is. Take it as you will. Like I said, you're all grown, so I don't tell nobody what to do. Thank you for listening. And time for the shout outs. Shout out to Juanita Hooper, Shamia Skinner, Chris Vasquez, and my mans who I still my mans. I'm still waiting for your name, man. I'm still waiting for your name. But shout out to my anonymous patrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. For update news, charity stuff is. I've already done the footwork. It's just a matter of finding a use for my unlimited use. So don't worry about that. When I get it up and running like it need to be running, you'll know. I'm also, because of my off time from charity stuff, I'm also working on a more serious pursuit. Not to say that charity isn't serious, but I don't want to come off as a Mother Teresa character. So yes, I am working on a more ambitious pursuit. Right now, we still in Candyland. So when I get something, when I start making the physical progress I need to make, I'll let you know what I'm doing. But until then, keep listening and respect your elders.